Welcome to the Box Score Sports Podcast.
But let's start in the Western Conference. Give me the first team that you want to talk about, whether it's a confident meter or a panic meter for the Western Conference.
I'll start with a panic team and the Minnesota Timberwolves.
I had them on
They
my list.
they are now 8-9, and they do have a plus differential, which is generally a good sign, but it's early. Something's not looking. We had them in the contenders team, and as someone who put them in there, 10 being panicky, I'd be like a 7 on this. Something's just not adding up. I mean, Anthony Edwards still looks, fine, but even some of these bad, like they're losing to the Raptors. They played the Celtics good, which is a good sign. But they lost to the Blazers a couple times, barely beat the Kings. Twice, right? They lost to the Blazers. Yeah. So I know it's 82 games is a long season, but at this point, something feels off that didn't in the preseason. Like Dante doesn't look like Dante. And, Randall, I think he has his ups and downs, but he's looked like he struggled to fit into a role, kind of how we thought. But at this point, I'd be kind of panicky if I was a Timberwolves fan, because the West is good and those top teams are kind of pulling away.
Yeah, I think the concern, like the biggest concern, right, is that the DiVincenzo piece hasn't fit as nicely as me and you talked about, that we thought that was going to be good. And if you had to look at it from now, like right now, you would say the Knicks got the better end of the deal. Although, obviously the playoffs is where it's really going to show for the Knicks. Um, they and Edwards, I think, has even played better this year. I think was shooting like 43% from three. Like, so you think with that this team would be a little better, but they're fit. Here's what I think it is. They're not really special at anything. They're 13th in defensive rating and they're 11th in offensive rating. Last year, at least, their defense was so good they could hang their hand on the defense, which I am a little surprised that they removed Towns from their team and they got worse defensively. You added DiVincenzo, Randall, you think Randall and Towns would almost be a wash. But they're worse defensively than they were last year. So yeah, I am concerned. So tell me, what was your level if you had a 1 to 10 or 1 to 5? What would it be at right now for them as far as panic level?
I would put it at a 7,
Okay.
just because
As
it's
far as
just,
being a contender, right?
yes, being a
Okay.
contender. Like I did these. If I was a fan of the Timberwolves going into the season, I
Yep.
thought they were going to be top 3 in the West. And at this point, uh, I would not feel that they'd be top 3 in the West. And you were like, I just looked Dante shooting 33% from free.
Yeah.
The other guys are still shooting fine. Like Randall was still fine. Nas Reed was still fine. But the mix hasn't mixed well. And, they're technically the 11 seed right now, though, it's early. There's only a couple games difference. Um, But again, there's so many good teams in the West that it's hard to make up, solid ground because you're going to have to go through these teams. So it's worrisome to me because I really like Minnesota. I kind of root for Minnesota as, another small market. Like, hey, let's go get something, but something's not adding up.
Yeah, I'm kind of concerned for them too. I think my meter for them would be about 7.5, 7, somewhere between 7 and 8. Um, just because you're right, we had big um expectations for them coming in the season, and it just doesn't seem like that trade really worked out for them, and it really doesn't seem like they're living up. But like you said, it is the bright spot, 82 games. If DiVincenzo figures it out and he starts shooting 40% like he did last year, that might be all the difference they need to start winning some of these games that they're losing. Okay, throw another team out there, Clint, for the West.
I'll throw a confidence one out there. The Rockets.
Yeah, I
The
had them
Rockets are
down
good.
too. Yeah.
The Rockets are good. Like I believe I had them as a playoff team,
Yeah.
like sneaking into that 5-6 area. Um, but Udoka, he just had a thing like, we got to be good on defense, and they're good. They just beat the Timberwolves tonight in overtime. Um, they play hard. They're athletic. I went to the game where they lost to the Bucks. Like, it was a nip and tuck game, and the Bucks got it at the end there. But they're harassing on defense, and the Bucks just happen to have the best player, and Şengün has they played him, I think, a little too much in that game because the Bucks just went at him. But if they can, they manage without it. I'm pretty confident that the Rockets are a top, at least a playoff team in the West, and they're 2 games out of first right now. So they look really good. They got Udoka has them playing the right way.
I'm totally with you. So they're second in defensive rating right now. That's their bread and butter, right? Like they are special defensively, long, athletic. They're scrappy. They're 15th offensive rating, and I guess third in the West right now, which you mentioned already. But they are playing really well. They have a lot of mouths to feed. They're a very deep team, and they're a team that I could see holding pat. The concern I have with them holding pat is if you have a potential to jump into that contender spot, you should try to do it, right? And we could talk about that later. But because here's my big concern with them. Their shooting is not great, okay? They have 5 people who play big minutes for them that are shooting about 30% from 3. Some a little higher, like 31, 32, and some a little lower. So obviously that's a concern because even Jalen Green, some of these guys you rely on shooting, Fred VanVleet, they're not shooting the ball well. So it could be a concern, or you could look at it as they'll figure out the shooting, and then once they figure that out, they're just going to run away with, they're just going to run teams off the court. Either way you look at it, I'm with you. Confident meter for them number. Did you say a number? What's your number at?
No, I would have them like at 8.5.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on them too, 9. They're kind of outdoing my expectations because I think I still had them as try to look here. I have our predictions right here. I had them as a play-in team. I think the 7th seed, you did have them in the playoffs. So yeah, they're outperforming my expectations, and I think they'll be someone you don't want to play in the playoffs either. So,
yeah, and I think they'll get some like Fred VanVleet shooting like 30% free. I think he's better than that, but some of this, and it might come on in the end of the season. We've talked about it before. Like when you play really hard on defense, it's also hard to keep your legs on offense.
yes.
So you might have some of that where you're getting guys, playing them hard on defense, and also they do kind of rotate a lot of guys in and out, so you had to kind of find their rhythm. But at least defensively, they have.
Yeah, and that's why I think with this team, like you said, they rotate a lot of guys in and out. I just think if you just take 2 or 3 guys and get one player that can be a real contributor to this team, it might be beneficial for this team, and they might look a lot better. Maybe, but you're always also worried about screwing it up, so you don't want to do that. Okay, let's give me another one of your teams here, Clint. Thanks so much for watching this clip of the Box Score Sports Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter or X, and we'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.